Proven tools, practical tips, all free. Subscribe at stevepreda.com/newsletter. Good day, Steve Preda here with the Management Blueprint podcast. And my guest today is Zane Keller, CEO of Ducere Wealth Management, with a vision to be the leading provider of tech-driven, tax-optimized wealth management services for clients through their advisory support, where every client's assets, time, and relationships are prioritized. Zane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me.
So, Zane, before we jump in and talk about Ducere Wealth, I'm very curious about your personal why and how are you manifesting it in the company, through the company's business?
Sure. Well, early on, I knew I liked one of my biggest passions was helping people solve problems. And one of the amazing things about being in the wealth management industry is you get to help people solve a lot of problems that are personal for them, and that's their finances. It tends to be a personal subject for them, and allowing them guidance, support, understanding, and being a listening ear is what I find to be extremely rewarding in the business we have. But starting a company and having a team and building that team and building all the infrastructure and support and all of that, to me, the employees are as much clients as our clients are clients. And so it's an interesting position that I'm in where it's a dual role of both looking at it from a standpoint of how do we help our clients with the day-to-day or yearly challenges they face, but also how do I make sure that our employees are empowered to deliver the right client service and feel that they can continue to grow and expand in their careers. So I just like helping people, and I get to do it every day.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So when you talk about solving problems, obviously finance is a mirror for all an individual's life aspirations, problems, challenges, opportunities, all that stuff. You know, your people are also humans, individuals, and they probably have similar challenges. So that's a really neat mosaic there. So what is it most challenging in building a wealth management firm like that?
I think the most challenging thing is all of the decisions are on you. And when I talk to other business leaders, there isn't a roadmap, there isn't a manual in terms of how people build their businesses, build their teams. And a lot of it is a balance of both trusting your instinct and what your background and lessons have been, as well as trusting those that you have brought in to help, build the enterprise. I was fortunate that I get to work with my dad, who had gone through this venture before, and we've gotten a chance to partner together and build it from the ground up. We went from a year ago, I had to order 2 laptops on Amazon, get a URL from GoDaddy, and start from scratch. And a year later, we find ourselves with 14 employees, an office in Newport, an office in Las Vegas, 600 million in assets under management, and continuing to want to grow and being fortunate that we have a tremendous client base who trusts us, but we've been able to attract and retain top quality employees and team members who we rely on every day to continue building out the vision.
Well, I mean, building 600 million assets under management in a year in a business like wealth management sounds almost like an impossible goal. Did you have a portfolio that you kind of apported into this business, or that was completely from scratch?
No, we had clients that we had worked with previously. We had left a big bank.
Okay.
And so some of those clients came over with us, but a lot of it was growing organically through COIs, through other marketing efforts, and bringing on other advisors who wanted to leverage our platform to provide a better service for their clients.
That's fantastic. So how does one start a wealth management business? It sounds like one of the hardest businesses to start because it's a trust-based business from what I see, and it's a very slow burn kind of business. How do you actually grow a business like that?
Well, I think first is in our industry, what's interesting is there's a lot of different business types. You have the wirehouses, the broker dealers. There are people that are very successful just being anchored to a Wells Fargo or a JP Morgan or Merrill Lynch and building within that. Then you have folks who have gone to the roll-ups. Private equity has become pretty involved in our industry. a lot of roll-ups, a lot of consolidation. Their value proposition is defined platforms that you can just plug in. And then you have what I consider the true independence, ourselves included, where we had a vision of we didn't want to be held back or bogged down by two areas. One, as things get larger and larger and larger, the wheels turn slower and slower. And I think we're in a unique area from a business evolution cycle that leveraging AI, leveraging the technology, being able to make decisions quickly is going to be a substantial differentiator over the next several years. And we didn't want to have the conflicts that inherently come when you are backed by investors. And the focus is how do you maximize revenue, even if it may be at the expense of clients or at the expense of employees or the expense of growth that you don't see the return on investment for several years. So we decided that we were going to do it from scratch. Luckily, I had a background at the previous firm, I had helped build out all of the tech stack. I'd worn almost every hat you can have at an RIA. And I had the experience from my father having gone through this, that between the two of us, there was enough goodwill or brand equity to build it out. But the other thing that we decided to do is there's a reason it's not called Keller Wealth or Keller Investments. The goal was never to have it be about ourselves. It was about creating a brand and a vision where others feel like they can be a part of. So Ducere is actually a Latin term meaning to lead, to guide, to educate. And we felt that that really resonated with what our value proposition and our mission statement is, both for our clients and for the employees. So as we brought on employees, I've challenged them that they have a responsibility to leave a impact or make an impact on the organization. And we start with culture. People have to be a culture fit first. We will not sacrifice culture for all the money on God's green earth, because I can confidently say that I don't know how much business or revenue we're missing out on if the team is not functioning at the highest level possible. So the first and foremost is a cultural fit. Then we look at the skills, the competencies, the ability to grow. But for us, culture is number one.
Yeah, love it. So what does it take to grow a wealth management firm? What drives growth in your business?
I think it takes three kind of main pieces. One is understanding that there's a term Gary Vee uses called macro patience, micro speed. And what we had set out initially is I knew that there were several steps between SEC registration, getting relationships with a custodian, getting relationship with tech vendors, finding office space, all of that needs to be done just from a basic business foundation standpoint. What I needed to do, when we needed to do it, and logging every week. I actually would send emails to myself and my dad for the first 2 months before we had employees of everything that got done the previous week and what we need to get done the next week and what our blockers were if things couldn't get done. Then that kind of grew into, as we had employees, becoming a consistent weekly check-in as we were heading towards what I consider our launch date, which was July 28th, because that's when we actually received SEC approval. So the first 2 months was just building the architecture, building up where we're going to work, what we're going to work with, all of those decisions being put in place. I'm fortunate enough that I've been involved with a lot of different companies in the industry over the years. So I had people who had done this before, people who had worked with large RAs, small RAs, and everything in between to lean on as advisors. I think one of the things that I was more than surprised by was the amount of outpouring of support. I'm happy to help you. What do you need? What can we do to make you successful? I know someone that I can connect you to. And I think that's kind of the unique thing about our industry is that there is a lot of camaraderie and willingness to help each other, even if you may be competitors in some aspects.
That's interesting. So when you say macro patience, micro speed, what do you mean by that exactly?
So our goal is to get to $1 billion or more in AUM. And while I'd love to do that overnight, it takes time, both from bringing in clients, market performance. I'd love everything to be fully integrated from an AI standpoint, But again, those things take time. So a lot of the times I think leaders have an issue with wanting to get to the destination as quickly as possible and not thinking through all the steps that need to get there. So each step along the way, or what I consider the day-to-day, I try to get as much done in the hours that I have during the day, and that's where the speed lies. And eventually that compounds, just like investing, into where we want to go from an overall firm standpoint. But me saying I just want to be at $1 billion, that's great. But you're going to say, well, what are you doing every day to get there? I can go, well, I've had this many prospect meetings, I've had this many client meetings, we reviewed this much market information, we decided to put money towards these investments. It's the day-to-day decision making and being quick in doing that I think is imperative for us to get to where our goal is going to be.
Okay. So this is a podcast it's called Management Blueprint, and it's a podcast of frameworks. And we are 350 plus episodes in, and every episode is a different framework. So I wonder, what's a framework that you have come across, or maybe your dad, you guys refined it, invented it, or improved it, that helps you build this business, that helps you do something more effectively, maybe getting new clients, maybe building your team members or training them, maybe getting the word out, whatever part of the business it is, that can be explained in 3 to 5 steps.
Sure. So there's a book called Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette. And that, from a leadership standpoint, is the mentality that I have taken since day one. To boil it down in one sentence, it's this: the people with the information make the decisions. Mm-hmm. And so if the team is coming to me all the time for every possible decision in order to move this business along, there's no way that we're going to grow at the rate, or grow arguably, period, the way that we want to succeed. So when I sit down with the team, the first question needs to be, if you're running an enterprise like this, is, do you have the right people in the positions they're at? Do they have the competencies, the understanding, and the cooperation with others to effectively make decisions in their role? And then the second thing that I spend the majority of my time on is, are there things inhibiting them from doing their role? So things such as, do they not know what their budget is? Do they not know who the decision makers on the other end are? Do they not know that they are responsible or allowed to make those decisions? So my goal is to make sure that they understand that if they have the information and we have built what the, framework or the bumpers are and the bowling, that it's their decision to make and to inform me why they made the decision, not for them to come to me and say, do we do A or do we do B? When we have a team, the expectation is there's a lot of moving pieces. To your point earlier, it's a lot to run an RIA. It's a lot to run a wealth management firm. There's several things happening all at once, several things that are intertwined, and you can't have one person that is reasonable as you grow and scale to be aware or understanding of the pros and cons of every decision. So we've brought people on. So we have a full investment team. They are responsible for making the investment decisions. I listen in, but I'm not doing the due diligence. I'm not meeting with the managers. I'm not doing all of that. We have folks that are responsible from an operations side, making sure things day to day happen. I'm not the one making the decision on that. But if they come to me and say, hey, this is becoming difficult, or we can't get a hold of so-and-so, then I step in. But the whole point of it is making sure that they feel empowered. The people with the information make the decisions. You get the right people in place. You should have, from a leadership standpoint, very few decisions you have to make on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's great. So basically you share your contextual understanding of your business with the people that work for you, so that they can connect the dots as well, and they can make the decisions, and you can focus on the strategic part of the business. What do you and your dad focus on?
Yeah, I'd say it's two parts. One is focusing on the more complex client issues, as we have multi-generational, multi-family, and also where we want the business to go. And it's not one-dimensional. It's bringing on more clients, plus bringing on additional advisors, plus looking at things from a national standpoint. After COVID, Zoom has become very useful, and people have become comfortable with having what I consider telewealth. So their advisor may be in a different state and they're completely comfortable with that. And so it's pursuing all of these various growth avenues because the day-to-day is being taken care of. So my focus is just that. It's focusing on strategy. Where does the next 600 million come from? What about the 600 million after that? And how do we continue to grow in a manner where we don't sacrifice some of the things that make us unique? Like, as an example, our team constantly talks, interacts all day long. Not just on a, this is the work that needs to be done, but people genuinely like working together. I don't have a strict in-office policy. The entire team's here 5 days a week. I've not asked them to do that. I've not said they need to do that, but they genuinely enjoy working here. So when we open up a second office, how do we keep that kind of consistency? When we open up a third office or fourth, it's those kinds of areas that I think I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out and see how do we grow without sacrificing some of the core values that we have.
Yeah. So what are your core values?
Probably three big ones. One is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on the podcast here, but we have a no asshole policy. You have to be a genuinely good person to work here. You have to genuinely care about other people, and that is the first test. Two, we want, just like the firm grows, we expect the team to grow personally and professionally. So if you're going to be here, when we do a review, I'm going to ask you, how are you better at contributing to the organization, to your team, and to your coworker than you were a year ago? And what do you expect to do better a year from now? And then the third thing is, how are you defending our culture? We may have new people come in. What are you doing to set the tone as to how we work here at Ducere? Because as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about me and my dad. It's about the collective organization, each individual playing their part to enhance and protect our culture.
Yeah. So it's very clear that culture, you talk about culture repeatedly. It sounds like it's a really big part of what you are, your identity, and how you want to build this firm.
Absolutely.
So what's one thing that you're actively trying to figure out in this business right now?
I think one of the big things is, how do we effectively bring on an advisor where we understand they have a book of business and we understand they have a certain way of doing things, and integrating both them into our platform, but allowing them to operate with their own unique style. One of the challenges with scale is sometimes you scale and you give up originality, or a unique way that, Steve, you may do something that I do it a little different, but it ultimately gets to the same goal. And really looking at, what are the goals or deliverables that an advisor wants to bring to their clients? And can we allow them flexibility to get there in their own way? And I'll give you a good example. So what we do from an asset management standpoint is, we have what I call an open architecture. So for any given portfolio, there can be a number of combinations and permutations that give you a similar risk profile or result. And we leave that up, if the advisors want to, for them to decide what that makeup looks like, as long as it's within the parameters that we've set from a risk standpoint. So as an example, Steve, you say I'm aggressive, and I go, great. I'm not going to put you in one stock if you're retired. That's too aggressive. But we do have several things that are approved on the platform, and we do continuous due diligence where we can say, Steve, here's 2 or 3 options. Which best serve your client? Which best are going to be something that your client understands and feels comfortable with? So that's one area that we've really been trying to focus on and figure out how we express that differentiator in a way that it actually resonates with those advisors.
Yeah, that's great. So you're basically, you want to build an organization where people can stay entrepreneurial. They don't have to just live in a box that is given to them. So you capture more creativity and more personality into your business so that you can grow in a more nimble way. Is this what you're trying to do here?
Yeah, I think the official term they've called it is intrapreneurship instead of entrepreneurship. But yes, the goal is, how do we get the team to come and say, hey, I think we have this issue and here's the solution I want to have, and it's a little different than what we do, but I think there's a way to make it happen. And again, the people with the information making the decisions, how do I remove as many blockers as possible so they can continue to pursue that avenue? But the big thing is, a lot of people, or some folks, sometimes get sidetracked. They go down rabbit holes, or they veer off on projects that may not be going towards what our goal is, right? Growing, adding more revenue, adding more clients. And so as long as there's a tie back to what our goals are as a firm, then we're all for empowering them to be able to pursue those passions.
Mhm. How do you maintain that structure in a family started business? That can be a tricky one. Then people might feel that there's a glass ceiling or they're always going to stay an outsider. How do you resolve this tension?
That's a great question. And it's something that verbally hasn't come up to me, but I can certainly see people's perspective on it. And so my dad and I tend to be pretty transparent as to what's going on, what we're dealing with, getting feedback from the team. And, while this is a 40 plus year venture for me, for my dad, it's probably about another 10-year venture for him. And so we've stated that our goal is to get to the point where we can be 100% employee owned, but we can have multiple employees who are owners of the firm. I'm a strong believer in giving people the opportunity to earn their equity. And if we do get to the point where we sell the organization one day, I want to brag about how many millionaires I created. I don't think anyone will ever care how many millions someone makes for themselves. And so we've, from day one, been very vocal and communicative to the team that the expectation is that as many of the employees that it makes sense and that they've earned it can earn equity. We plan on doing that, but it's probably not going to be until about year 3 where we actually start putting together that from a formal standpoint.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So who is an ideal client for you? So if someone is listening to this and they think, oh, maybe I should talk to Ducere, how do they know whether they are in the sweet spot of what you're looking for and who you can serve the most?
Sure. Well, our best clients are ones that tend to be multi-generational. So they're families that are looking to pass on or the management of the wealth from maybe the matriarch or the patriarch to the next generation. And they have more complex investments, partnerships, family limited partnerships. They have an interest in private or alternative investments. And they're looking for someone to help with that transition and possibly help with the next generational transition and a partnership that's another 20 to 30 years. So folks that are qualified investors that tend to have complex tax and estate needs and really want someone who's a quarterback between all the other professions that they have, professionals that they work with, CPAs, attorneys, etc. That's who our ideal client is. There are firms out there that offer everything in-house, right? We do your taxes, we do everything. And the analogy I like to use with clients is that's like going to a buffet. Buffets for some people are great, but I've never had my greatest meal at a buffet. Usually it's fine dining where it's a specific niche that they are looking to serve. And so if they're happy with the other professionals that they work with, our job is to fill in that gap to make sure that things get coordinated, they get an understanding of what their financial picture is. It's a clear cut as to how to get to those goals. And I think the biggest and most successful clients we've had are ones who want to learn. They want to be educated clients. They want to be educated investors. And so those are the type of clients that would be ideal, multi-generational, complex financial needs from a tax, estate planning, and private investments. They're also looking to work with a firm that may not have some of the conflicts that the Merrill Lynch's and Wells Fargo's, who may sell you their own proprietary products because we don't make any commission, we're fee only, or some of the PE firms who are looking to figure out how to maximize profit of each client. And that's not the way that we look at it either.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waking up to the idea that if the owners are super profit oriented, then it means someone will have to pay the bill. And, if there's a huge imbalance between the motivations of the company and the individuals, then it can create tensions down the road. When I look for home services, I always look for, okay, which company is the one that maybe is a locally owned one, genuinely locally owned, with real people that I can, I can talk to and who I can trust, rather than a faceless institution that essentially dictates the policies that may not always be in my interest. So I appreciate the independence. So if the listeners would like to learn more and to figure out whether they have enough complexity or whether you are a right fit for them, where can they find out more and how can they connect with you?
Sure. We have our website, ducerewealth.com. We're actually, for our 1 year anniversary in about 2 weeks, we are revamping it. And so there's going to be a lot of resources for all the various niche type of clients that we work with. And there are several forums out there. You can contact me, Zane at ducerewealth.com. I'm a principal, but I talk to our prospects and clients, and we just want to do what's best for the client. So ducerewealth.com, and we welcome any and all of those interested.
Okay, so if you have complex financial needs or you just want to think about your legacy and transition maybe to the next generation and how to maximize your wealth, check out Ducere Wealth Management and reach out to Zane Keller on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed the show, then make sure you follow us on YouTube, give us a review on Apple Podcast, and stay tuned because every week we have a couple of exciting entrepreneurial leaders who come to the show and share their most secret frameworks. So Zane, thanks for coming and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you listening today. Stay connected. Sign up for my free weekly newsletter at steveperida.com/newsletter.